Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 5:30, and I will call this regular meeting of the Burnsville City Council to order. It is our tradition to stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If the clerk will note that Councilmember Keeley is absent, he is on a plane on his way to a conference. Tonight's meeting is conducted both in person and online. Members of our community and the public may attend in person or watch this meeting online at burnsvillemn.gov/meetings or Comcast Channel 16 or 859. The public can also participate through Zoom by joining us at zoom.us/join. More information about the meeting and the packet is available on our webpage and in the council agenda packet. We have some announcements and presentations to make. Announcements have to do with all of our upcoming meetings. We have council meetings scheduled for Monday, November 6th at 5:30 p.m. and Tuesday, November 21st at 5:30 p.m. The reason for the meeting on Monday, November 6th is because of elections, and we are not allowed to hold meetings during elections. And so, therefore, the first meeting in November will be on Monday, November 6th. We have work sessions scheduled for Tuesday, November 14th. This is rescheduled to November 28th. And then we have a special work session, and this is for commission interviews, and this is on Monday, October 23rd at 5:30 p.m. And then we have a quarterly roundtable with our leadership team, and that is on Tuesday, October 24th at 5:30 p.m. And then we have a special council meeting, and this has to do with our budget, and that's on Tuesday, November 28th at 6 p.m. Now, all meetings of the City Council is held here in the chambers, unless I tell you that it's going to be at a different location. And tonight is a very special night for us here in Burnsville, and that has to do with honoring all of the wonderful people that help us to make Burnsville what it is. And I'm going to first read a proclamation from there, and then we'll recognize all of our community builders. And so here's how it's going to go, the run of show. So our city manager, Greg Lindbergh, and members of the council are going to come with me. So as we award the members of that's the member that is winning a Community Builder Award, we'll also pin a starfish, and I'll talk about that also later. And then after it's all done, and then we'll come and take a big group picture of everyone in here with everybody. But if the council can then come with me and our city manager, and I think City Clerk, were you going to also help with the boxes for the, okay. And then Councilmember Kara Schultz is going to help me with the starfish. This is always an exciting time for us here in Burnsville, because it's a time that we here in the city acknowledge all of the people in our community to help Burnsville make it what it is. And we are so grateful that you all give of your time and talent to make our city what it is. And so with that, I'd like to read the proclamation for today, and that is Make a Difference Day. Whereas volunteer service is an investment in our future, bridging the difference that divide people by working together to solve serious social problems. And whereas the annual observance of Make a Difference Day encourages people to improve the lives of their fellow human beings by giving where there is a need, rebuilding what has been torn down, teaching where there is a desire to learn, and inspiring those who love and have lost hope. And whereas Burnsville is fortunate to have many caring residents who are willing to donate their valuable time, energy, and talents to making a difference in the lives of others through volunteerism. And whereas at this time, we'd like to recognize and thank our many community partners for their valuable contributions throughout the year, including Beyond the Yellow Ribbon, Burnsville Athletic Club, Burnsville Community Foundation, Burnsville Historical Society, Fire Muster and Festival Committee, Heart of the City Race Committee, the Hockey Club, the International Festival Board, our Lions Club, the Minnesota Valley Figure Skating Club, the PAC Board, Rotary Clubs, and many more. Now therefore, I, Elizabeth Couts, Mayor of the City of Burnsville, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim Saturday, October 28th, 2023, to be Make a Difference Day in the City of Burnsville, and urge my fellow citizens to observe this day by connecting with friends, relatives, and with religious schools and civic groups to engage in projects that make a positive difference in our community, proclaimed this 17th day of October 2023. So the recipients of the Community Builders Award will also get a starfish. Now you might ask, well, why? So for those of you who don't know the story of a starfish, it goes like this. And those of you who know the story, you know you always learn a little bit more from it. Thank you, Dr. Belmont. He's nodding his head. But the story goes like this. Every morning, a gentleman who lives by the seashore would go down and walk along the beach. And one morning, as he went to take his stroll along the beach, he saw that the beach was littered with starfish. But as he looked out into the distance, he saw someone who appeared to be dancing, and he was curious, and as he got closer, so it was a young girl, and he went up to her and said, "What are you doing?" And she went down and picked up a starfish from her gunny sack and skipped and threw it into the ocean. And she said, "Throwing starfish." And he looked back where he came from, and the beach was just littered with starfish. And he said, "You can't possibly make a difference. The sun is rising, and it's going to kill all of them." And she went to her gunny sack, picked up another starfish, and skipped and threw it into the ocean, and turned to the gentleman and said, "It made a difference to that one." You see, all of you who are here today have made a difference in the lives of somebody in our community. Your heart and your desire to help has given that person something. Now, you may not know what it might have done, but I can tell you that it made a difference. So tonight, we're so grateful and appreciative for all that you do, and we're going to award those community builders. And the Community Builders Award, it comes out of some work that we did back in 1998, and we wanted to make sure that we honored all of you. So thank you for joining us on this very special night, because it is I believe, one of the special nights that we have here in Burnsville as we celebrate the dedication and support of the Burnsville community with our annual Community Builders Award. Every year since 1998, Burnsville recognizes community builders, the individuals, groups, or businesses that have helped make a lasting impact on the quality of life in Burnsville. On behalf of the City Council and our staff, this year I am proud to present 10 Community Builders Awards. I'd like to ask the winners to please come to the presentation area when I read your name to receive your award and take a photo. After the final award is presented, I'd like to invite all of tonight's winners to come back to the front, and then we'll take a big picture. And then our wonderful communications team is going to get all of those pictures, and then they'll be up on the website and also up on Facebook and all of the other social platforms that we engage in. So thank you so much to all of you. So first, we'll start off with Brian and Eileen Foley. And Brian and Eileen Foley was nominated by Catherine Smith. So Brian and Eileen have been dedicated volunteers to the Padres Place since 2010. For those who aren't familiar, Padres Place is described as a place to have fun. This local nonprofit organization partners with the ski and snowboard school at Buck Hill Ski area to provide a fun experience for skiers and snowboarders with physical or cognitive disabilities. They provide an opportunity to experience winter fun in a safe, family-friendly atmosphere with lessons tailored to individuals' needs and creating wonderful memories. In addition to giving tireless amounts of time to providing adaptive winter sports activity, Brian additionally volunteers his time to be part of the Buck Hill Ski Patrol. Thank you to Brian and Eileen Foley for helping to make Burnsville a community that is welcoming to all. So I believe, Eileen, you're here. I met you. And is it okay if Councilmember Schultz pin you?
Sure.
Okay.
Just do it right on your collar.
Okay.
That's okay. Yep.
She has the hard job.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so, come on, you guys. Okay, thank you. And the next award goes to Dan Gerner. He's the head coach for the Burnsville Youth Wrestling Program. He was nominated by wrestling parents Heather Tollefson. Dan started as a volunteer coach when his boys were wrestlers and continues his involvement years later, even as his sons are now young adults. He developed this program to be more than just the sport of wrestling. Dan mentors his team by teaching respect, initiative, teamwork, and integrity. Whether it is displaying great patience, offering to help families during difficult times, or working with those who have special needs, Dan supports his team on and off the mat. One of the most amazing things Dan has done for the community is to provide families with the opportunity to participate at an affordable rate with volunteer coaches. Dan is an advocate for equality with all participants so that everyone has the opportunity to join. Thank you, Dan Gerner, for being a positive role model to the youth in our community. Dan.
not to get pinned, trust me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the next recipient is Chelsea and David Weinstein, Kids and Kinship. And now we would like to honor Chelsea and David for being nominated by Kids and Kinship, who recently celebrated a one-year match anniversary with their mentee. Chelsea, David, and their family opened their home and hearts to encourage and support their mentee with endless patience and through unique challenges. Their commitment to Burnsville goes well beyond their year-and-a-half mentorship with Kids and Kinship. As residents for nearly 10 years, Chelsea and David have been active in local schools and community programs. Their family's openness, warmth, and personality has brought them great success, not only as compassionate mentors, but also amazing volunteers. Thank you, Chelsea and David, and your two wonderful children for your commitment to the Kids and Kinship program and for helping to make Burnsville a connected community. So, Chelsea and David. Well, of course, it's a family affair, right? Okay. Thank you. Next, it's an honor to and a privilege to know Jerry and Marlene Martinek, and who has been nominated by Dr. Chris Belmont and ISD 191. Chris is here to receive the award on behalf of the Martineks as they are out of town. The nomination for Jerry and Marlene reads, "They truly embody the spirit of you belong here that makes Burnsville such a powerful, positive place to work and live." As Burnsville Savage Lions members, the Martineks go above and beyond to make sure students have a positive start to the school year. They coordinate school supply donations, make sure everything is organized, and find ways to partner with our schools in a positive and meaningful way. As Lions members, they are the first to welcome each member and remind the group of the importance of community service and commitment. Jerry and Marlene serve Burnsville with humility and thoughtfulness and make others feel empowered and cared for. And we thank Jerry and Marlene for the wonderful impact that they make to the city of Burnsville. And Dr. Belmont is here. So.
They're away volunteering, not surprising.
Yeah, so we'll come here and then you'll have to pin them when you see them.
Thank you, Mayor.
Our next community builder honorees are Jim Claude and Rob Roy, nominated by Vicki Roy for their service with the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. Jim and Rob dedicate an incredible amount of time before and during the tax season to obtain comprehensive understanding of tax laws and software so that they can coordinate teams to prepare tax returns so that they can coordinate for all of the members at no cost. They provide services at community locations like the Burnsville Library and senior living facilities. Each year, they help hundreds of community members with their taxes. In addition, Jim and Rob are active community members in a variety of ways. Jim is one of our election judges, and Rob is very involved in youth and high school sports and previously served as a director for the Burnsville Community Foundation. Jim and Rob, thank you for being valuable contributors to our Burnsville community and for all the ways you share your time and energy with others. You are true examples of community builders. She's going to pin you. I'm going to give you.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, Rob, and then Jim, I have one for you too.
Thanks.
Okay. Here you go. Okay, come in, go. Next, we would like to celebrate John Hamilton's nominated by Councilmember Dan Keeley. And Councilmember Vince Workman will be receiving the award on behalf of John because he is unable to join us this evening.
Okay. I have Val here. She's going to do it for John.
Well, she's also getting a,
She'll do it twice.
whatever you want to do.
John loves Val, so it's a perfect match.
Okay. So John joined the Burnsville Festival volunteer team in 2022, and since then has been a one-person machine of endless work and dedication to the community. He started with a new sensory-friendly zone, taking over the role of chairing this initiative. In this role, he connected the team with a local Burnsville business who specializes in families with sensory-related challenges to best serve the community during the festival's largest day of attendance. John also helped with fundraising and spent significant time and effort in connecting with local businesses. Then he took his commitment another step when he helped recruit volunteers to support the festival's new inflatable zone and served as trainer and coach for other new volunteers. John's business wisdom, resourcefulness, and positive help helped others to be successful in their roles. John, thank you for being a dedicated volunteer to the Burnsville Festival and a community builder. So, Val, this is for John, and we'll make sure that he gets pinned.
I did speak to John before I came, and he said, tell everyone hi and thank you.
Okay. Yes, very good.
Do
So,
you want to get that to him, or do you want to? Okay. I don't think you're going too far.
well, I think you're not right away, but
Oh.
heck, yeah, you can have a seat. And now we would like to honor Melissa too, nominated by longtime neighbor Emily Hemerl? Heimel. Okay. Emily is present to receive the award for Melissa this evening. Almost all the residents on Court Place know Macy. She's Melissa, but you all call her Macy. Missy. Okay, and her dog. Her dog's name is Dot. Macy is the person who builds connections and careers about others. She organizes gatherings, cares for the children and pets, and offers rides when needed. She served as a neighborhood watch, block captain, and helped host Night to Unite and Independent Day celebrations, all while working full-time and keeping an immaculate yard. From rescuing loose dogs to providing water to children playing at the nearby park on hot days. Macy is always ready to help Her nomination includes many examples of ways she has gone above and beyond to help others in big and small ways. When a neighbor is experiencing a challenge, Macy always finds a way to help. And when a neighborhood child requires an organ transplant, Macy organized a fundraiser, including entertainment, a raffle, and all the logistics. And that is just one of many examples. So thank you, Macy, for your 32 years of being a caring neighbor and building connections. So you're going to have to pin her when you see her.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just because you're receiving it for her, you come up also when we take the big picture.
I will do that.
Okay, everybody. The next honoree is Nasima Omer. And I nominated Nasima for her dedication to the International Festival. She was an original volunteer and has done so much to build the International Festival, and especially the Children's Village. And Amber Jacobson is here this evening to receive the award because Nasima had to teach a class this evening. Nasima Omer is involved in the community in many ways and has been a valued volunteer and integral part of the International Festival of Burnsville. She has been a great success for 15 years in the work that she does for the festival. Her time and talent are key to making the event fun and meaningful to our youngest community members with the family, arts, and activities area, which she has chaired for many, many years. From finding creative activities to securing volunteers, Nasima always makes sure the area is successful and accessible to families, and her talents were especially appreciated during the challenge of the pandemic. Not only is Nasima gifted in creativity, she also helps the festival continuously develop each year by creating a detailed report at the end of each festival. Nasima is also devoted to providing wellness opportunities for the community through activities like leading Zumba and yoga in the park and educating people about natural health products at Party on the Plaza. Thank you, Nasima, for all you do to help the Burnsville community. And Amber. You've done this before. The next recipient is Shannon Matthews, who submitted a nomination form to inform us of his many contributions. Not only is Shannon Matthews a veteran, civil servant, and Burnsville resident, he is also the first living veteran to donate his Purple Heart Medal to an institution of higher learning, which he did to Oklahoma State, where he is from. There is a scholarship for veterans in his name as well. While living in Burnsville, Mr. Matthews has helped veterans achieve the proper information to receive benefits and care, and has assisted families of veterans who have passed in securing their benefits. Mr. Matthews has been recognized locally and beyond for his service. In 2021, he was inducted into the Purple Heart Mission Project Hall of Fame for outstanding achievements to the country he proudly served. Mr. Matthews, a sincere thank you for your dedication and your service to our community, but also to our country. Thank you so much. Thank you. And our last recipient, Val. Certainly not least, Val. Val was nominated by Councilmember Dan Keeley. Val Bostic is known for being an energetic and inspirational volunteer, dedicating time and talent to the Burnsville Festival. As it says in her nomination, her energy and smile are contagious, and you can all see that. Yeah. Val quickly jumped into the festival volunteer event committee, taking on a large double dose as their new volunteer chair and parade coordinator. Val worked tirelessly 7 days a week for months to make sure volunteer recruitment was strong and that the festival had a full parade for the community to enjoy. Val brings a huge smile and a positive attitude, energy, and spirit to everything she does, and that even includes meetings. The Burnsville Festival's success is a direct byproduct of Val's hard work. Thank you, Val, for your passion and commitment and for being a community builder. And so with that, I think okay, now, just go over here. So all of the recipients, if we could invite all of the recipients to please come forward, and also the people who received the, Amber, you can't leave. I see you. So please all come forward. Yeah, you're supposed to be. So everybody.
Getting dizzy. It's so far.
Lights all this place.
Belmont needs to come stand in front of
Can we
Kara.
get a little more centered?
Did he leave already?
A fantastic suggestion.
He's already gone.
Can you see Kara?
I can see.
Belmont left, otherwise
Someone
you see.
give her a stool.
Trying our best.
Thank you, everyone. And thank The next item on the agenda this evening is citizens' comments. This is the opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the council on an item that is not on a printed agenda and not an application form that will be coming before us at a future date. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council? Mrs. Collins, anyone on Zoom?
No one, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We will then move on. The next is additions to the final agenda, and this is for emergency items only. City Manager Lindberg, are there any emergency items to come before the body?
Nothing from staff, Mayor.
Thank you. Members of the council. Okay, we will then move on. The next item is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a group of items that's considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. However, an item on the consent agenda can be removed for a separate discussion and vote. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes an item on a consent agenda to be removed for a separate discussion and vote? Mrs. Collins?
No one, Madam Mayor.
City Manager Lindberg?
Not from staff, Mayor.
Members of the council? May I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. We now move on to the regular agenda. The first item on the regular agenda is a public hearing. And this is to approve on-sale wine and on-sale 3-2 malt liquor license for Tsunami Japanese LLC, doing business as Tsunami Japanese Cuisine at 1601 County Road 42 West. Presenting this evening is our city clerk, Michelle Collins. Mrs. Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. We did get an application from Tsunami Japanese, and this is in the former T&J restaurant location. The Burnsville Police Department has conducted background investigations on the principals involved and found no reason to deny the application. The issuance would be contingent upon the issuance of a certificate of occupancy and payment of the associated license fees. City Code requires a public hearing for all new liquor license applications. I stand for any questions.
Any questions? Okay, I will now open the public hearing. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Members of the council, your pleasure.
Move to approve.
There's a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you. We will now move on to the next item. And the next item is an ordinance adopting revisions to City Code Title VII, Health and Sanitation, continued from August 8th, 2023. Our city clerk, Michelle Collins, is presenting. Mrs. Collins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This was the item that the council had asked to go back to the Code Review Task Force. And the task force staff had reviewed it and made some changes based on your direction, and then presented those changes to the task force members, and they did also review it and add some edits to that as well. All of the information was in your background. I'm just looking for the, there we go. Specifically, we were to look at the definition of junk vehicles, and that was done. There are other, not just the definition, but there are other places in the code that it was affected to see that even though we just changed this definition, we wanted to make sure that it followed through in the other places in the code that it needed. The other area that the council wanted some revision was with composting, and that was also done, so that it wouldn't, as you can see on your screen, this 7-7-3, paragraph A, was removed, so that that nuisance portion of that definition was no longer part of it. The inoperable vehicle definition was also removed so that it did not affect that. The historical vehicle definition was added. The one thing that was not a direct council direction, but to go to the same theme of the council's direction, the city code on trailers and campers was updated to specifying that one trailer camping vehicle may be parked, stored outside, and that more than 2 trailers camping vehicles must be screened from public view. I stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions? Okay,
2 thumbs up.
with that, members of the council.
Madam Mayor, the summary ordinance does require
4.
a vote of
And then-
4. If,
And I'm looking down the road here, and I think I have the 4 votes.
okay, great.
So, so I'm going to bundle it,
Okay.
okay? So, members of the council, may I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
And then also to issue the summary ordinance. Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you very much. All done. Okay.
Could I say something real quick
Oh,
about this?
absolutely.
I
Councilmember
served on this
Gustafson.
task force for the last almost 3 years.
Yes.
The citizens of the city did a great job on this. After passing this tonight at council, that was their last meeting. So they are now applying for other commissions that we'll probably be seeing some in interviews next week. But they did a great job, and a lot of good stuff came out of it.
Okay, Councilmember Schultz.
Is there any way that we could have them come into a city council meeting for a thank you?
Absolutely, we should do that. City Manager?
On it.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, members of the council, it's a great suggestion. We're already planning an event, and certainly we'll have them into the council. There will be a couple of months where you'll still have approvals from their work. Both Title 8 and Title 9 will come along, and then they'll have their advisory capacity in the last 2 titles related to our community development zoning.
Yeah, and the one thing for our residents and for everybody, we have a lot of great commissions who serve us on an ongoing basis. This particular group was a task force. So it was a special task force that we put in place to review all the codes from way back since the city was incorporated. And they did a fine job of going through all of it. And so we're really grateful for the work that they have done. City Manager Lindberg?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I would be remiss not to recognize the work of staff alongside our community in this work. It's been a good 3 years and a really positive result for the community. So I'm very appreciative of the work our team has done alongside the community as well.
It's very well said, City Manager Lindberg, because we have people who come together, but the backside of all of the things that go on is the work that staff does to prepare, to dig into all of the code and the ordinance and prepare all of that information for the task force to review, and also our attorneys who have been present on all of those so that we can have the legal aspect of all of that. So I think when we do that, we have to recognize everybody, and thank you for reminding us that it's the volunteers, but also our staff who have done a lot of great work. So thank you. That'll be done.
Yep.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the application of Costco Wholesale Corporation for a concept stage planned unit development to allow an off-site parking lot as a principal use at 14001 Burnhaven Drive. Our Community Development Director, Jeff Thompson, is presenting. Mr. Thompson, good evening.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Here to present this development application for the Council's review and some of the background information. We also have representatives from Costco tonight to answer questions. So brief background, Costco has actually closed on the purchase of the Pumpkin Patch daycare facility at on Burnhaven Drive. It's at the intersection of 140th Street and Burnhaven Drive. They've closed on that purchase, and the plan that they are proposing involves the demolition of that existing building on the site, and then constructing a satellite parking lot, or a parking lot that would be used by Costco employees. It'd be exclusive for Costco employees as part of their business operation on the west side of Burnhaven Drive, which is obviously the location of our Costco warehouse. The application they've made is for a PUD concept stage application. Just to highlight for the community and for the council, our PUD process has a 2-stage approval process, and it's a concept and then a development stage. We very oftentimes pair those two together. Tonight we're not doing that. They have just proposed the concept stage. So what we don't have tonight is like the final engineering and architectural engineering drawings in this case of the details of the design. So the purpose of the concept plan is for the council to focus on the larger policy questions of the application before we would work through any sort of final details the construction. Obviously, there's not substantial details on that, but, given the site improvements, but again, the purpose is really to focus on the purpose and objective of a planned unit development and ensuring we're achieving our goals and objectives in our comprehensive plan and in our zoning ordinance. Costco has submitted as part of the concept plan, oftentimes in a concept plan you'll have some options for the conceptual drawing. So there are two options that have been proposed by Costco. They're similar, but there are some unique differences. Option A, again, it removes the existing building and would build a 69 stall parking lot on the site. On this plan, two important things. One, the access from 140th Street would actually be located on the city-owned property. So as you know, the property to the east is city-owned. It's the site of the previous fire station. And the city doesn't have any immediate plans or identified future development of or future uses for that site. But this plan would include using a shared access from our city-owned property to provide access to that site. The main reason for doing that is it gains them some additional parking spots, not having to provide that access on their own directly from 140th Street. The second was talked about at the Planning Commission. It's fairly undefined, but it shows some minimal improvements on our site. Again, it's conceptual, potentially just showing a parking lot and a walking trail. There wasn't a lot of discussion at the Planning Commission about this, but it's an option Costco has presented to just provide some of public amenities on that site. Staff's concern, a couple concerns on option A is one, certainly a shared access would impact our potential future use of that property, undefined on what that site could be used for and how access would need to be provided. There certainly would be some potential future restrictions associated with having that access on city property. And second, without a formal plan or a future use identified for that site, we're somewhat concerned about how the duration and what those improvements should be and the extent and duration that they would be in place. Option B confines the parking lot essentially entirely to their site. So it's a slight reduction, 65 stalls, so 4 fewer, but then the site access would be completely located within their property on 140th Street. An important note, both of the plans include the same proposed configuration at 140th and Burnhaven, which is what is today. Burnhaven is through traffic without any sort of stopping, with 140th Street and then the access for Costco having stop signs. They are proposing a 4-way stop sign configuration at that intersection, not only to control traffic, but also to allow for pedestrian crossing for employees to be able to get to the site. I mentioned that it would be exclusively for employees, and that is what Costco has stated as part of their application. They would self-manage that requirement, that it be only used for employees. We've discussed as part of our options and discussions with Costco about this, and they have essentially stated that this would be the employee access plan, or how employees would gain access to the building. They would cross at that 4-way stop at 140th and Burnhaven. They would then cross along the public sidewalk, the city-owned public sidewalk on the west side of Burnhaven Drive, to 141st, to the south again, using the public sidewalk on 141st, and then they would come in through the loading dock areas and into an employee entrance on the south side of the building. They have indicated that this is the required entrance for employees, and so that's the entrance that they would want employees to use. But it's about a quarter mile, a little bit, it's actually further than a quarter mile walk, and largely along, crossing a Burnhaven Drive, and then largely along public sidewalks throughout the 4 seasons of the year. As I said, I've been in discussions with Costco for some time on this. We've certainly discussed a number of options and alternatives to this plan. I won't talk in detail about those tonight, but certainly we are understanding of Costco's concerns about parking and their customer experience there and trying to find solutions for that. We have continued to express concern at the staff level about this plan, and just want to talk a little bit about our staff recommendation for denial of this project and some of the reasons behind that. I think we would start first with our comprehensive plan and our Center Village plan, right, which incorporates our economic development strategies, our goals around land use and development, certainly within Burnsville, but also within the Center Village plan, ensuring kind of a successful, vibrant area of retail and service, and ultimately in the future housing to create additional investment and support and services within within Burnsville and within the larger Burnsville Center area. I think our concern when we look at this is two things. One, we're developing community with limited land, and this is removing a development site or a development building, which could provide services, retail service uses that are important to our community. And second, certainly this project would have implications on employment and tax base, and opportunities for employment and tax base growth within our center village area and within Burnsville. So that very big picture, it's certainly a concern as part of our comprehensive plan and our economic development plan of those impacts of having essentially a parking lot as a principal use of a property. To get a little bit more in detail, we certainly have significant safety concerns with this. There was a memo provided by our fire department and our police department, kind of a joint memo, expressing significant concerns about the pedestrian crossing. Burnhaven is a 4-lane divided road with turn lanes, so it's a significant distance to cross Burnhaven, as well as just the all-season weather conditions of utilizing a public sidewalk on a fairly significant basis for pedestrian access for their employees to get to the site safely into Costco. The second piece of that is the fire department has also expressed concerns about emergency vehicle access. We know the traffic is difficult in the parking lot, and having a 4-way stop and additional pedestrian traffic and some of the operation things that can happen from that could create additional limitations and issues with getting emergency vehicles into the site if needed and be able to circulate the site. And then lastly, a PUD for Burnsville is an ordinance change. It is a zoning ordinance change, so it is a legislative and policy decision of the council when to grant a PUD and when not to. This specifically is to allow for parking as a principal use. And the deviation they would need is this would exceed the maximum parking requirement because there's no building on this site after construction, and so there's no parking required, and so it would exceed our maximum parking requirement. So that's the deviation they would need. Certainly as part of PUDs, we can identify deviations and flexibility to grant from our code in exchange for a benefit to the community or to the public, and I think we've struggled a bit with identifying that public purpose and public benefit to Burnsville. The Planning Commission reviewed this and held a public hearing. There was no one that spoke at the public hearing. There was a long discussion with the council, the Costco representatives, and amongst the Planning Commission themselves. They ultimately voted 4-1 to recommend approval of the concept stage PUD. They did incorporate option A into that recommendation, which is the shared access on city property with future improvements on option A to be decided. And they discussed 2 restrictions or 2 conditions of approval for that recommendation. One, taking the recommendation from our engineering and traffic consultant that the Burnhaven 140th be signalized with a traffic signal to provide the safer traffic operation and pedestrian crossing. And the second condition they talked about is only allowing the parking lot on a temporary basis or as a temporary use. We've talked about that internally after the meeting and certainly with our legal staff. And unfortunately, it's not an option the city has. We can't put temporary use restrictions in planned unit developments. It would have to be a permanent approval. Certainly Costco has indicated that they don't maybe intend to use the parking lot for an extended period of time, but we can't put temporary restrictions in the PUD that would require them to no longer use it at some point in the future. So tonight, there are really 2 options before the council. The first is to deny the PUD concept plan as recommended by city staff. We have 10 findings for that were drafted in your council background. The second option is to approve the application, which was the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Certainly there's discussions of option A or option B for that approval, but we would recommend that you exclude the temporary use restriction from any council action for approval. Ultimately, on either of those, because we have a differing staff recommendation from Planning Commission recommendation, we ask that you just direct us to develop those and draft those findings of fact, and we will bring those back on your consent agenda at the next meeting for adoption by the council. So with that, Mayor, I'm happy to stand for questions, and I know Costco has a presentation and is here tonight as well.
Any questions for staff?
Quick question, Jeff. You said you could find no public benefit in this? I mean, but PUDs usually require there's a public benefit to the PUD.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I think when we talked about, yes, correct. We talked a little bit about when a PUD is a flexible zoning tool in which we grant deviations and flexibility from our code to create a better development that creates public benefit to the community and to Burnsville. We're not saying necessarily there's no public benefit to this project. We know that the operation and the successful operation of Costco in Burnsville is important. They're an important business in Burnsville, and we want to support that operation. So there's certainly benefit to their business and to supporting their business as part of providing that parking. I think what we've struggled with is the other things we talked about, which is impacts on our economic development goals, our tax base and employee and job growth, opportunities for development in Center Village, and then really also the focus on public safety concerns we have with the pedestrian crossing and the traffic operations.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Councilmember Schultz?
Yeah, if you could go back to the maps.
The site.
Yes,
that one.
thank you. I appreciate that. I don't really have a question. I just want to be looking at that again. Thank you.
Shall I have the Costco people come up and talk? Okay, very good. And to the podium, give us your name and address for the record. And I see Mr. Stratus. We have a long history, sir. So,
Good evening,
good evening.
Mayor and fellow city council members. My name is Larry Jurczyk. I'm a Costco real estate consultant. My address is 1955 Raymond Drive in Northbrook, Illinois. That's about 30 miles north of Chicago. So, Jeff, thank you for that very thorough presentation. And Mayor, thank you for allowing us to speak. We're going to keep our presentation very brief tonight. I think Jeff hit on a lot of very important points. I see my presentation is up. Do I advance the next slide by asking them to, can I have the next slide, please? So I think everybody is very familiar with the area, but I just wanted to review a couple things for you before we got into some of the recommendations that the Plan Commission made, and that was the character of this area, the current land uses of this area. The current zoning, of course, is mixed use, as Jeff has indicated. And you could clearly see that residential is north of McAndrews, and we are predominantly in a commercial area with existing parking, existing office buildings. There's office, some medical office buildings to the north of us. There's some architectural and some smaller office buildings to the south. Of course, we have Target, we have Kohl's, my point on this slide is that parking is associated with commercial and retail uses. And so our proposed use as a parking lot would be similar to some of the existing uses that are currently there today. Of course, everybody knows where the subject property is. It's at the southeast corner. And then you could see the parkland site, which is Zone P. I wanted Mike Stratus to come up to give a little bit of history about the Costco original deal for the property, and then some of the efforts we made before we purchased this property. He has reached out to some of the adjoining neighbors, and we looked at leasing property. He'll talk a little bit about the idea of a parking structure, why that doesn't quite work for this property. So I'll turn it over to Mike Stratus, who's a senior Costco real estate expert. Mike?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, my name is Mike Stratus. My address is 2311 West 22nd Street, Oak Brook, Illinois. Mayor, it's good to see you again. So I thought it was important to come up. I don't attend all these zoning hearings historically. I used to. Now we have younger people doing this, but this was a transaction that was a little dear to my heart. So 15 years ago, we came in and we started expanding into the Twin Cities, and we were actually working in Lakeville to try and locate a location down there. And to be honest with you, I don't remember whether it was the mayor or your community development director at the time reached out to me and said, you know, Mike, we'd like Costco to come and possibly serve.
Because we don't have municipal liquor.
So it was
So,
it was twofold.
Mike
It was
and
two.
Mrs. Stratus,
Yes,
I remember all of that.
Yeah, it was
I've been here.
Yeah, it was twofold. You wanted us to potentially serve as the genesis for redevelopment of the mall. And then in the same context, we said, okay, well, the problem is you don't have municipal liquor. You're in the
And we
municipal.
changed our ordinance to help you come in. And at the same time, Grossman Chevrolet lost their franchise with General Motors. And so the land became available because you didn't look at Burnsville because we didn't have land enough for Costco.
That's correct.
But with Grossman Chevrolet, we now have land, and we helped
That's correct.
to make it sure that you can be here rather than in Lakeville,
Yes.
since we changed our ordinance to the shopping center area
Yes.
and allowed liquor stores in that area without distance
It was
restrictions.
It was a masterpiece of
Yeah.
of recruitment, and it all is exactly as explained. We also had to buy a Cadillac dealer, I think. And but at the time,
That was your
Yeah,
negotiation
'cause
with
we
Grossman, not
yeah,
ours.
because we needed more land. But at the time, again, we were looking at this parcel and we're thinking, okay, it's landlocked by roads on three sides, but we also looked to the east and we had 100 acres of Zone B3 land, commercial land, and we thought, okay, if we need some extra land in the future, we could potentially expand there. So we're now a victim of our own success. So this is a very successful Costco, employing over 300 employees, probably does over a $20 million a year payroll, roughly. And, just as evidence of how well we do here, because we know who our members are and where they live, I have 6 full-time demographers who work with me. I've asked my demographer to tell me how many households in Burnsville have a Costco card. And it's 53% of every one of your households is holding a card. That's number 3 out of 110 in the Midwest. Number 1 is Pittsfield Township outside of Ann Arbor. So again, 53% of every house in your community is holding a card, which is evidence to how well we've been embraced. And, we're super grateful for it. But now, sales have gone up. And and part of it is due to COVID. Because every Costco is a value proposition, so people were coming, but it has not tapered off. What's happened is nothing but good things. Our membership renewal rate is at all-time high. I think it's at 93%. But now we're a victim of our own success. So for the first time in my career, I've been doing Costco's work almost 32 years, I'm spending about 30% of my time buying 1 to 3 acre sites next to Costco's, like in St. Louis Park, to expand the parking, not only to service the member, but to increase the safety. So for us, it's all about the safety. When you don't have enough parking stalls, you start getting aggressive behavior. And so this particular Costco is underparked. In fact, I think it's the 3rd lowest parked in the Midwest. And so that's why we're here. This was a very expensive proposition. And, but Costco feels that it's necessitated for safety reasons. We have parking constraints. We're very respectful, by the way, of the staff report. This is schmarmy, but I've been doing this for a long time. I've done 200 or 300 Costco big boxes. I think I've written 3 letters after the closing to the city saying your staff was fantastic. This was one of them. And Ms. Gross and Jeff, even though we don't agree with their conclusions, it's very clear. They listened to us. They fully analyzed all the data. I thought their staff report was brilliant. I'm on my own planning commission. So nothing but lauding and platitudes for the process. But we disagree on a few things. So when I first went to staff and said, we'd like to buy this, they said it's incongruent with our vision zoning. And my response was, when you did this 4 years ago, you sent Costco notice. And I called you and I said, we don't have a problem with this vision because Costco is harmonious next to residential. We're one of the few retailers in the world that are perceived as a good transitional use because the side of our building is all solid and the loading is in the front, blocked. The noise of that is blocked by the building. We have no outdoor storage. We have no outdoor speakers. We have no outdoor compaction. So we looked at that and said, well, we don't want to stand in the way of this. But in all honesty, we never envisioned that buying a little piece of land would be controversial to help us with, again, seasonal employee parking. And again, we're busting at the seams. It was also suggested that we do a parking structure. I just attempted to do a parking structure in Houston last month, and the bid came out at $52,000 a stall, which was about $10 million for 200 stalls. If we did that here, number one, we couldn't afford that. Number two, because it's so tight, we'd have to close the building down for 6 to 9 months. And it's kind of like a health club membership. You work for 13 years to build all this membership base. We're competing with Sam's and Apple Valley and Shakopee, and now you close for 6 to 9 months. I won't say we'd be starting over from scratch, but it would be monetarily a massive hit to us. And so we didn't think that that would work either. We also looked at potentially relocating gas, some other things, but we've run out of options. And this map is up here for a reason. I spoke to the owner of the Hobby Lobby shopping center. They wouldn't even give us seasonal, the lease parking stalls behind there, just say for October 15th to February 1st. They're busting at the seams themselves during the holiday. I sent letters to the Center Place Medical, didn't hear back. Sent a letter to the Twin Cities Orthopedics about getting temporary seasonal parking, didn't hear back. Tried to make a couple calls. You know, we have attempted to see if there's somebody that we could lease from nearby. And then the pumpkin patch, we reached out to them and she said, I'm closing this unit and I'm moving anyway. It wasn't like we induced her to sell. She only has 4 or 5 employees. You know, I hear the arguments on the tax implication. While I was sitting here just now, I looked, we paid 303,000 property taxes last year and the pumpkin patch paid 18. We employ 340 people, roughly. Larry will give you the exact numbers, and they only employed, again, 5 or 6. So I get it. You don't want to give up your land. You don't have a lot of land. But we're just trying to figure out if there's a solution here where we can all win. I'm going to wrap this up pretty quickly here. But, you know, again, the one thing we did when we tried to expand in Pittsfield Township, which again is a suburb of Ann Arbor, Michigan, is they also had a similar vision statement for the land next to us. And what we told them is, let us buy this 1.5 acres, we'll do a surface parking lot, and if a developer comes along in the future and wants to redevelop this with more of an urban streetscape concept, you know, a parking deck, ramps, whatever, we'll covenant in our development agreement that we'll cooperate reasonably with the community to replace that. So if somebody wants to come in the future, put a parking deck there, we would say, okay, well, here's our land, replace the 65 stalls or the 69 stalls, and we therefore won't stand in the way of the vision. And I don't know how to memorialize that, but that's what we did, in Ann Arbor. So that's the prime purpose I came up here. I just want to give you a little historical perspective how we ended up here. And again, we're kind of a victim of our own success. We want to stay here. We don't want to have to relocate. And we run out of ideas, quite candidly.
Any questions for Mr. Stratus? Okay, I have a question. So, Mr. Stratus, this is about public safety. And from my perspective, because I'm a loyal Costco member, that's a very, very dangerous intersection.
Yeah.
And when I exit the property, I go down by the fuel station and then come around and take a U-turn to go north. Simply because it's very hard to even exit Costco and wait for all of the cars that are going every which way. So, and to cross that intersection for your employees, and this is Minnesota, winters are long, and it's cold, and when the wind whips through, it is very, very cold. And to have your employees cross that street, Burnhaven, and then go about a quarter of a mile to enter the store is not very compassionate or kind to them. And a lot of the employees at Costco are seniors. And so I'm thinking about them. The other part is that you say that you'll have to shut down the store for 6 months if you put in a parking structure, because I looked and I've driven the site and I know the site so well. And at your northwest corner, even around Christmas, you'll get some folks parking that far along. But if you build a parking structure, now I've been around for a long time, and we build parking structures when we put it in the heart of the city, and we didn't have to close down the parking ramp, the heart of the city parking ramp. We didn't have to close down any of those stores to build that. To build the deck for the Performing Arts Center. We didn't have to shut down the Mediterranean Cruise or the Ames Center because we were building a deck. MBTA was my first experience into all of that. When we built that deck, because it was first just a surface and then start just building it up because it was designed in a way that they had the right pylons in place to build decks upon that. We didn't have to shut down any of the services around that. So from my perspective, to be kind and to your employees, having a deck. Also, you look from an economic standpoint. So today's dollars, you're still short about 120 parking spots. Mm-hmm. So even when you do this, you're still short.
Yes.
But a parking deck will allow you to do that. And if you do it in today's dollars, it'll still be cheaper than if you delay it, because we know with all of the development that comes in or the work that we do with our facilities, when we do it in today's dollars, it's one price. And each year, there's about a 4% increase in labor and cost of materials, et cetera. So it's much cheaper, I would think, for Costco to look at that and to say, you can do a parking deck. It might be a big piece to swallow this time, but in the long term, it's much more cost efficient and effective for your people. And for me, it's very difficult because I've traveled that, I've looked at it, and I've gone into the store and I've looked at the people who work there. That would not be kind, and that would not be compassionate. And so for me, it comes down to public safety, and it comes down to that there is a solution, and that if you build it in today's dollars, you will meet your capacity, long-term capacity, and you will get to your total need for the future. This one, you'll still be 120 parking spaces short. And at the other part of it is that we work so hard to look at this whole area, and you spoke to it. We don't have much land, so we have to be very thoughtful and diligent about how we look at all of the land that we have left, and to do a wise decisions around that. And you know that we work well with you and work hard to make things work. So I think there is a solution here for you.
Not a $12 million solution. It's
For today, but if you come back and try and build to get your 120 shortfall,
yeah.
it's going to be even more back then. You know, so I think it's looking at today's dollars versus and getting to your capacity rather than saying, so from my perspective, it is about public safety. And even if you purchase the land, and I don't know why you did that without going through this process first, you could have had a purchase agreement contingent on the approvals, and then you wouldn't have that. But even if you put in a stoplight over there, I mean, the cost of all of that, when you add it all up together, and then shrinking the tax base for the city, is something that is of great concern to me when I look at all of these things. So for me, it is about public safety. And it's not that we don't have a solution here. There is, from my perspective, a solution. And it's about building it in today's dollars, and you can have the capacity of fulfilling all of your parking needs.
Let me respond, if you don't mind, to a lot of that. There's about six
Absolutely.
things I want to respond to. First of all, our current employees all park up near the gas station. And so the distance they're walking,
Yeah,
about the same, whether they're across the street at Pumpkin Patch or not. The other thing is, we're not going to mandate that people use the employee parking. Elderly employees could park where they want. It's just to give us overflow capacity. Number two, we have no parking decks in the Midwest because of the reasons I told you. And it's way more than just the cost of the parking deck. It's also the cost of the escalations, the vertical circulation systems, the elevators. People are pushing big ramps. Target does parking structures all over the place, but their average basket's about $40 a shot. Ours is over 145. So people are buying lots of things, bulk, big carts. They can't push up ramps, they can't push down ramps, has to all go on escalators, moving ramps, and we just don't do that. I think we have 5 parking decks in the US. We have one in Texas and Houston, we have one in downtown San Francisco, and I'm not gonna be able to, just practically speaking, I'm not gonna be able to get Costco to pay $10 to $12 million for a parking deck here. The answer to your question on parking, it's true. It's still not a complete solution, but eventually we'll put a unit in Shakopee or we'll put one in South Lakeville, and that will mitigate it off. But in the meantime, we're looking for a short-term solution to help with the situation because we're in extremis now. And the question about buying the property, I went to Costco and I said, you know, it's a pumpkin patch. You know, if they don't allow us to knock the building down, we still get 25 stalls or whatever it is. And they said, Mike, it's worth it to us just to buy it. And if we have to just put a small office in there and use it as an office building, for us, the safety benefit loss is there. So they were well aware that you could turn us down for knocking down the building and parking the whole thing. But for them, again, under the auspices of safety, they're willing to do that. But I will not be able to get them to do a parking deck. And it would be disingenuous for me to give you any sense that they would.
you know, Mr. Senegal came, Jim came
Yeah.
to the opening, and I had a great conversation with him. And I saw the heart of that man,
Yeah.
and that's why he's so, he
I
put
see a
together-
different guy. So I'm teasing. He's a wonderful man. So.
Yeah. I mean, he cared about the people who work there.
Oh, absolutely. He's the most loyal guy. I mean, I could sit up here for an hour with Schmarmy stories, but he hired me in 1992, and he told me in the absence of malfeasance, negligence, or fraud, I'd be their guy till I retired. And when you're 29, I'm 61 now, you know, that was like, okay, yeah, okay. But no, a wonderful man, loyal to their employees, loyal to everybody. Larry and Kakwan are new to the program. The people they replaced just retired at early 70s in last year. And I hired them in 93 and 94. So again, great guys. Jim's wonderful. Actually, I just talked to him briefly a month ago, but they just don't do parking structures because of the distinctions I gave you. It's not just the cost, it's how does it work? What happens if the escalators break down? How many elevators do you have to make it work? For instance, we have them in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. We have Target on our roof, Costco on the ground floor, and I think we spend like $1 million a year just oiling and lubing those things and they constantly are maintenance items. So I'm well familiar with Minneapolis. My mom and sister live on White Bear Lake. I go downtown Minneapolis. I see the gerbil trails. It all works. Target's got a structured parking facility. And we talk about it all the time at Costco. But because of these nuances, that people are pushing these big carts. And that's the distinguishment between us and Target and other people who have more readily embraced ramps and structured parkings. It doesn't work for us.
The structured parking was used for your folks, for your employees, yeah. And so, anyway, I have Councilmember Schultz who has some questions and remarks to make.
So I have a question on, was this an avenue of investigation either by staff or by Costco? Was there discussion of taking that snip of road along with the parcel? So 140 would still go into your parking lot. You can turn down McAndrews and go down there, but you don't go past that, it would now make a T on Burnhaven Drive. You would still have the stub going north on Burnhaven Drive to Center Place Medical, Dakota Electric, but taking that snip of road that is between the patch and Costco, and then putting a stairway down so that employees could go there and walk down right there.
Yeah, are you talking about a street vacation?
Yeah, I'm talking about taking a piece of that street.
Nobody talked about that? We couldn't be happier if we could make it
I mean,
straight.
and I don't know if that's I don't know. Maybe Center Place Medical would be like, Kara, I'm going to picket at your house now. But I don't know. But I did not know if that was an area of investigation, because that would start to address safety concerns.
No, we didn't, no one in the room, including staff or Costco, talked about that. What we did talk about is there's a 13-foot elevation drop.
Yes, there is.
And so,
Yeah.
and I've talked to our development team, can we put a little stairwell there so that they don't have to walk all the way down and around, but they can walk through the front and down.
Right.
And that's a possibility too. We prefer not to do that, but if that was a solution, by doing that, we'd probably lose 3 or 4 stalls right there. And then we haven't investigated questions about ADA, do we have to
Yes.
do
Yep.
some sort of a,
Right.
but yeah, like I said, we're looking for solutions that solve our problem in partnership with the community, and we're open-minded to what that looks like.
Okay. And now Jeff is going to tell me why I'm insane.
Mayor and
Mr.
Council-
Thompson.
Mayor and council, short answer, no, we haven't looked at any sort of closure of Burnhaven Drive, whether that's in any direction.
Yeah,
We did
that
look
would
at,
not work for all the other businesses.
we did look at 141st Street, and not closure of it, but changes to that for on-street parking, parallel park, some sort of angled parking or something to provide additional public parking along 141st. It's within public right-of-way, but noticing it's just
Yeah.
in more proximate location to the Costco employee entrance. That we did look at, but we haven't looked at any sort of closure of Burnhaven Drive between 140th and 141st.
Is it out of the realm that Costco and staff would investigate that? And of course, talking to the other business as well that's there. Because it looks like the medical office, like that's the main one that it would impact, and that's just because you would now have to go there north. You wouldn't be able to just like hit McAndrews and drop down south to hit there. But it wouldn't affect anyone else. That would also give you additional parking spots.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, it's an interesting idea. I don't know how that,
It disrupts also the parking requirements of those businesses. And we have to really, and it's their property.
Yeah.
It doesn't belong to the city, it's their property, and they met the parking requirements for their business and for their patrons.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, I did not understand that comment.
So, because you were talking about a taking,
Yes,
then that,
of the road,
yeah, well,
the road. Not other businesses, places, but
but
taking of the road.
yeah,
A snip of
that's,
that road.
that our traffic engineers would look at that, and that would be very difficult to do also if you're going to take portion of that road. If you travel that road, you see how very busy it is, and even when those
it is
cars
busy.
that are going north on the east side, because there's cars going and they're going to take a left turn into Costco, and then cars that are going straight to McAndrews, or cars that are going to veer off to the right to go into Kohl's or to the Twin Cities orthopedic property. So, I don't know.
don't know.
Mr. Thompson, I mean, when you and the engineering staff, that's taking, that, when we're looking at our infrastructure, that's, Mr. Thompson.
Mayor, if I could, As I said, we have not looked at any sort of changes to Burnhaven Drive, other than the traffic operations at the intersection of 140th and
Yeah.
Burnhaven Drive. If I could just clarify, is a question about just to close the road to allow for pedestrians to cross, or deconstruction of the entire road, or removing of the road to allow for additional property on the Costco property?
Either.
Um,
Either, because either they could have that and make additional parking spots, not have, pay. Or, close it so that it's a pedestrian area, but so I'm a frequent Costco shopper. I know the hell that it is getting in and out of there. I understand the problem you're trying to address, big time. Having that as a L or a T, actually it'd be a T, would actually make it a little easier to get in and out. Because when you're trying to get in and out and it's that straight north-south traffic constantly, you're parked there for a while. You're parked there for a while, either trying to get in or trying to get out. With that closed, now you have one part of the road that you're not having to worry. So getting out, you have to take a left with no oncoming traffic, or as you're going in, you're taking a right with no oncoming traffic. So, I'm just thinking that might solve multiple safety issues.
Yeah.
But again, that may be something that is completely not workable. I don't know.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
I'm looking at this, I'm going, okay, that would be a left out of
Yeah.
Costco.
Yes.
Which would put all of the traffic onto McAndrew. Nothing would go up to 42.
Correct.
It would all just
Yeah.
filter
Correct.
onto McAndrew.
Yeah.
That's gonna require a light down there, because I
Yeah.
can tell you, you put that amount of traffic on McAndrew,
And that's a county road.
Yep.
And we have talked with the county about, but it doesn't warrant.
well, I think it would
It- it would then.
if we put all the Costco, I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking
Yeah.
about taking two exits, and then you're
Yeah,
coming out of
no.
the gas station, you can only take a right out of the gas
That's
station. You
right.
can't take a left.
No.
So they're gonna have to come up and do a U-turn, or we have
Yep.
to take out that semaphore.
And I
in there,
take
so
that U-turn, yeah, no,
No, I mean, there's
That's-
definitely,
no.
there's definitely
And keep-
challenges
and
to
keep in mind,
that.
Twin Cities Ortho you can only get into it off of 140th.
That's
So if
right.
you try to come up
No,
Burnhaven,
you could still get to it off of 140th. Now, could you go north on Burnhaven and take a right onto 140th and then go in? No. So are there definite negatives to this? Yeah, there's probably 100 negatives that I could list off. However, I didn't know if this was something that was even looked at and evaluated, if it was even possible, because I understand the situation that they're in. I also understand the city's vested interest in safety, and I agree with those concerns on the safety. So trying to look at it possibilities. I don't know.
Yeah, I have a couple other comments for you. You know, we get a lot of traffic from the south. So those people wanting to go to Costco, they'd have to come up, take a left on 141st and come in. So now all of a sudden you got 40% of your, 50% of your demographic pie has to come up and come in the primary entrance. And you're also then going to shift a lot of the traffic up closer to the
already
residents.
backlogged.
So this would be putting my planning commissioner hat on.
Yep.
So I don't know that that would work, but
No.
I need to return a little bit to the safety concerns. I have to tell you, we just did this exact same arrangement in Niles, Illinois, suburb of Chicago, and in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, which is a suburb of Madison. We have 1 acre to 3 acres across the street. It's just parking. We have, the lit crosswalk. Costco employee comes up, there's a motion detector, lights on the crosswalk light up, and no problems. That's just the two I've done in the last year. But we have lots of these around the country. We've never had anybody hit or injured or anything like that. So, and again, it's not Minnesota with minus 20-degree weather, admittedly, but this is not like an aberration for us, what we're proposing.
And a friend of mine, exit Costco, this is Mike Turner's wife, and got T-boned down on McAndrews and Burnhaven.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we saw the police report. I think it was 15 T-bone Now, of course, the skeptic in me says, well, how many of those were Costco members, or, who, I don't know who was on Burnsville, but nobody's more concerned about safety than we are. And we would not be asking for any of this if we thought that this was not a force for good. I mean, we're not looking to.
We want you to be successful, but I'm looking at it on a long-term basis. I have Councilmember Workman who has questions and remarks. So, Councilmember Workman.
Thank you. Lost my train of thought here. Hold on. I don't. I'm not supportive of this plan. I am also a Costco member, and I also struggle with this parking lot on Saturdays and Sundays. I love Costco. It's probably my favorite place to shop. I want Costco to succeed in Burnsville. I am wondering if, and I'm gonna tell Kara to hold my beer here. Was the idea explored to go under Burnhaven Drive, because you do have that elevation shift, and I'm wondering if the cost to put a walkway underneath would be cost prohibitive.
I have no idea what that would cost, but I would have to imagine a lot.
Yeah.
$500,000 or more.
More than a parking deck?
Yeah, no, less than a parking deck. And,
But still short of your parking stalls.
yeah, yeah,
Still short.
yeah. Yeah, there's no permanent solution. Although we all in chorus are looking around for one.
I do not like the idea of pedestrians crossing 4 lanes of traffic on a Saturday afternoon when that place is going crazy. People are not paying attention. They're staring down at their phones. Car accidents are happening at an increasing rate across the country. And I would not feel good with myself if I allowed an approval here and even one person got struck because we said it was okay to cross 4 lanes of traffic because of a blinking stop sign. It might be successful in other communities, but I know this site well enough because I go here enough that that intersection cannot and should not handle pedestrian crossing. I'm not opposed to it being a parking lot. To your point, there might have been 5 or 6 employees there. That's not a huge loss to the vision at large, but that intersection is just, when we discussed this in our meetings, I don't know, this had been a month ago, my immediate reaction to this was there's no way. There's just no way. And I know that hasn't changed. So I can't support a crosswalk at this intersection, even if you've got lit up everything. If there was a way to go over or under that area, I could get on board with that, but I just don't think you can put people across 4 lanes of traffic on a Saturday afternoon there.
If we signaled it, would that change your mind at all?
It would be
Signals
better.
$700,000 or $800,000. We have our traffic consultant here. We think he has good reasons for why he thinks a 4-way stop is better than a signal. But again, we're looking for a common solution here. If it takes a signal,
Is a signal just going to exacerbate the problems without getting out of that parking lot then?
I don't think so. That would be a question.
And a 4-way stop,
cop one.
people fly through those 4 ways stops. Yeah.
For the record, Kakwan Ma, National Traffic Consultant for Costco, 225 East Robinson Street, Orlando, 32801. Councilmember Workman, to answer your question with respect to the signal versus a 4-way stop. Currently, it is a 2-way stop. As a 4-way stop, there would be less delay on the side streets. So coming out of Costco, coming out of 140th, there is actually less delay because currently when cars reach the stop sign, they have to wait until there's an acceptable gap for them to make a maneuver turning out of Costco. As a 4-way stop, all vehicles that reach the intersection have to stop and they take turns. So in that respect, the analysis shows that there is less delay for the side street. There is more delay on the major road, yes. But the delays don't result in multiple car queues, okay? Based on the volumes that we took on a midday peak on a Saturday, which is 2 p.m., everything operates fine. As a signal, you will get longer queues and longer delays only because of the cycle length whatever cycle length is set for the signal. So if you happen to catch it when it turns from amber to red, then you as a vehicle, you have to wait there until it turns green again. So potentially there is a longer delay.
Have you guys considered a roundabout at this intersection with the crosswalk?
I'd love a roundabout there, but the grade changes, given the size and footprint of the roundabout with the grade changes, it would be very difficult to put in there.
It would at least slow the traffic down enough to give additional safety to the pedestrian.
I just don't think it's.
So, right, we would want to make sure that the crossings at the roundabout, since cars do not actually stop, cars would be expected to yield to pedestrians, but they do not, but from an operational standpoint, they do not stop. If it is going to be heavily crossed in a environment like this one, in a scenario like this one, I would want to do a lot of extra analysis to make sure that it's going to be safe for pedestrians. With a 4-way stop, all vehicles that reach the intersection have to stop, and if there is a pedestrian, they would cross. At a signal, there would be pedestrian actuation, the push button, and there would be enough red time in order for the pedestrians to cross. So in those two situations, obviously I would not recommend pedestrians crossing on a 2-way stop as it is now. But in either of the other two situations, a 4-way or a signal, there would be preemption by a pedestrian to be able to cross safely.
Well, it sounds like there are going to be people crossing on a 2-way stop either way if this doesn't pass, because it sounds like this is going to get used for parking regardless of what happens tonight, correct?
And to your point about the crossing of 4 lanes, I believe that, if I see the aerial correctly, there are already crosswalks on 141st for pedestrians to cross.
That's a good point. I got to think about this. That was helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, or Councilmember Gustafson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've spent a lot of time on safety, and I agree with some of the safety issues here. And I also agree with our mayor that asking employees to walk basically 4.5 football fields to get into work is a bit much, and especially the extreme weather that we have here in Minnesota and the ice and snow and cold. But some of my biggest concerns are actually, I look at your map here, and you're right, you're in a retail area. There's a lot of parking in that area.
Correct.
But every one of those retail areas has a building on it. Every one of them. Not one of them is just a parking lot. And I concern myself with putting an easement on the city property that's next door that I know we're going to sell at some point, and the developer's going to want to do something with it, and I don't want to encumber it with an easement. And so that becomes an issue as well. As our mayor has talked about for quite a while, we have spent years and years and years working on the County Road 42 area. And that encompasses everything in 42 all the way over to Byerly's, I think, is where it went.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of citizen input on this, a lot of business input on this, and we came up with some plans that we put in place. We've changed our comp plans out there, and we've actually made it easier for people to build out there. But we haven't made it easier for someone to take a piece of property and just make it a parking lot without a building to it. If that land was contiguous to Costco, that's a no-brainer, but it's not. It's across a 4-lane, which is actually 5-lane when you put a turn lane in there. So I'm having a hard time supporting this right now. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't want to encumber the properties down there because we're in a redevelopment phase and we're getting good success. And talking with Jeff quite a bit, we have a lot of people approaching us constantly about building on the County Road 42 area, and there's a lot of redevelopment happening down there right now, and I'm envisioning a lot more coming. So
I'm just saying, everybody down here would throw.
yeah, this area here. It's, we've got just couple blocks down, we got the Seritage, not Seritage, but the Sterling Group. They've got some things going on. There's, of course, the mall's got a whole bunch of things going on. I just looked at Buca's, and it looks like they're tearing that ground up, so I don't know if they're getting ready to rebuild out there or not. So as we go on here, I don't want to tie up this land. I mean, you own it, you can do what you want with it. I mean, if you want to park some people on there without us giving you a parking thing, there's nothing I'm sure we can do about that. But I wouldn't be in favor of making that a parking lot.
I appreciate your comments. If I could go to the next slide, and I won't take that much more of your time,
Okay.
Mayor, but I would like to just point out a couple of areas of where current employees park today and distances.
I don't know if you're going to make a difference in the way that I think about this.
Okay,
But-
why don't we move to, next slide, please? Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so you have not seen this plan. So this is what we're calling our revised option A plan. And this is based on comments that we received from the Plan Commission. So what you'll notice first is that we removed the park improvements. We're no longer doing a shared access drive. It's become apparent that you do not have plans for that park site. We came up with a concept. It's just a rough
No,
napkin
we do
sketch.
have plans, we just don't have it ready for our property, and we want to make sure that we grow the tax base on that property and not just make it another parking structure. So no, we do have, we have talked about what
Okay.
we want for that site.
I stand corrected. So we've eliminated any access to the east or to the northeast. So our only entrance is off of Burnhaven. We've simplified the parking lot. Costco will put in a traffic signal. So this is a new development. I know Mike touched on it a little bit, but we are committed to a traffic signal. We've done some math. We understand what the cost is. We've also looked at how long it will take to permit and design the signal, which is a little bit concerning to us because we'd like, if we are approved tonight, we'd like to install and construct this parking lot in the spring. We could use the parking as you've heard tonight. So our proposal is to, in the interim, while we're waiting for the permitting, to install the four-way stop and the crosswalks and take a look and see how that operates. While the permit plans and the construction drawings and the permit process is moving forward with the traffic signal. So Mike, myself, and Kakwan are here representing Costco tonight, and we have agreed to install a traffic signal. But in the interim, while we're waiting, it could take up to 4 months, 6 months. I've been told now maybe 7 months. Some of the equipment may take a long time to get here. Why not install the four-way stop to see how it works? Install the the crosswalks.
I do, because they're not gonna walk all the way around.
And so this is our new revised option
Thank
A
you.
plan.
Thank you. I'm going to go to City Manager Lindberg, and then I'm going to go to our Community Development Director, Jeff Thompson.
I clicked the button a while ago, Madam Mayor, but point of information for the council, there was a reference to West 141st Street in Burnhaven. That intersection
Yeah,
is signalized as a point of information.
It is a signalized intersection, that's correct. Mr. Thompson,
Mayor and council, just to take us back a bit to the two options that we have before the council, we are at the PUD concept stage phase. We are not into the formal engineered design
That's
of
right.
any of these.
That's
So we're
right.
looking just for the council's
Yeah.
policy direction on approval, denial as recommended by staff, or approval with what conditions.
Yeah.
I'm hesitant to get into an option that staff hasn't reviewed.
and
We
the
haven't
other
seen
thing
this.
is that you have to go back to our staff. We don't make these decisions at the dais because we don't have information. You go back to our staff, and then you work out all of these details. Because from my perspective, and you've heard it, I just can't approve this. From a safety perspective, on the application that's before us. This is not before us. The application that's before us is the one that I cannot approve tonight. And from my perspective, as someone who was a business owner and I look at what we do here when you're building and the cost of building today. And I'm looking at long-term for Costco and your capacity for what you need. So you still, even with the signal light, you still don't get at the capacity of parking spaces that you need for the future. So that's still a big problem. So how are you going to solve that? I don't know. But what you bring us here tonight, it's not something we're ready to understand because it needs to go back to our staff. Our fire and police chief and their team has to take a look at all of that. Our traffic engineers have to take a look at that. Our consultant traffic engineers have to look at all of that. And so one of the things is that for tonight, members of the council, we're only here to take a look at the application that's before us. And I need a motion to affirm or deny. And then if this next one, you can bring it back to our staff and you can go through the whole process again.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
Move to deny.
Okay, there's a motion for denial.
Second.
There's a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. We love Costco, but we have to make it safe for everybody. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Okay. All right, members of the council, there are no other items to come before the body this evening, and a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you for being with us, and good night.